Welcome to day one of Discover Your Purpose Challenge. My name is Sylvia Mordini, the founder of Life Inspired and Alchemy of Yoga, and I'm so excited to begin. So today, what we're focusing on is what is purpose, why it matters, and how it has a holistic impact on your happiness, as well as understanding what is an identity crisis. Are you going through an identity crisis? And how do we come out on the other side of that? In addition, I'm going to introduce the methodology, the four-step system that I developed over the last 19 years of teaching thousands of people all over the world how to discover their purpose. This is what I call the SOUL method. So 4 parts, SOUL. And today we will focus on step 1, Tuesday, step 2, Wednesday, step 3, Thursday, step 4, and on Friday, we will go through an entire integration of the week. So that's it in broad strokes. So let's get started, shall we? And before we do, just make sure that you have a journal, that you have something to drink, that you have some space for yourself to really enjoy this experience. And remember, at any time, you can press pause on this video and write for longer periods of time, or pause and come back. So you decide. I just want it to be really helpful and an experience that you're looking forward to each and every day. Now, with a little bit about journaling itself. Journaling, and you'll see in your workbook that at this point you've downloaded and may or may not have printed out. But in your workbook, you'll see different parts have for each day journaling prompts. If you're new to working with journaling prompts, it's really a method to help you focus your time, your energy on what matters most in trying to excavate some responses and develop greater self-awareness about some aspect of yourself. Rather than sitting there wondering what I should write about, this is a guided experience. So if you're new to it, what I suggest doing is when I give a prompt, or when you use a timer, set the timer and just write to that prompt for 1 minute without stopping. Even if you have to say to yourself, I don't know what to write, I can't believe I don't know what to write, here I am still writing, and just rewrite the question over and over. And what will occur is all of a sudden your subconscious is going to reveal itself, because you can't always use just the conscious mind to do this excavation and deep dive into soul purpose. So try that, see if it works, rather than write, stop. Try that golden plume and just let it flow and see what occurs. Also, when it comes to journaling, no need to be perfect, allow it to be messy, and bullet points are just as valid as writing in more sentence structure or prose form. So you decide, and it can be different every day, every question, but one is not better than the other. And finally, when it comes to journaling, tell the truth. Be honest with yourself, and no one's going to see what you're writing but you, and allow yourself to really make it as potent as possible, so that you're not trying to edit in your mind before you write, trying to get the right answer down. Whatever the answer, whatever the response is, get to the truth of your truth, because that's one of our goals this week and intentions, is to get to the truth of your truth, to reveal your true self, your true identity. And then that's honestly when we attract true love, and we attract occupations that feel really in alignment with our truth, and everything falls into place. So be sure that you're applying those just key things, and you'll see I enumerated them inside your workbook. So check back there if you need the reminders. So let's dive in. With this topic of what is life purpose and why does it really matter? Well, why on earth would I want to know and follow my life purpose is kind of like saying, why on earth would I want to be myself? Why on earth would I want to actually show up as my authentic self? Why would I want to be true to myself and be who I really am? So when you look at that question on the why, we want to discover our life purpose and really look at what's behind it. Is there some aspect of your identity that has not been comfortable being seen? And have you got to that point that honestly you want to stop hiding? You want to stop changing your identity and making it situational depending on who you're with. And all of a sudden, finally, it's like this urge inside you that you just have to show up as yourself. And you can't take it anymore if you don't do that. And so I want to share with you one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou. And it's a poem, really. And the title of the poem is quite long. 4 questions we unconsciously ask one another at all times. 4 questions we unconsciously ask one another at all times. Question 1. Do you see me? Do you see me? Number 2. Do you care that I'm here? Do you see me? And do you care that I'm here? The truth is, fundamental to our humanity is that we want to be seen and we want to be recognized. And so the work of identity and life purpose go hand in hand. They're like completely partnered with one another. And I want you to see me. I want you to see me not just as the story in my mind. I want you to see me as I really am, because I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of showing up 50% or 70% or only 10%. I'm tired of hiding my full authentic identity. And and I struggled with this because when I came to the United States as a child, we were told at that time, don't speak another language. And we moved to a place that we were the most exotic humans in the entire county, not city or town, but the entire county. And people didn't know anyone, not a single soul, not their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. They'd never met anybody from another country. And so here I arrived with my father from Italy and my mother from Ecuador, and who speak Italian and Spanish, and I'm a little brown girl, right? Like it's hard to hide that. And all of a sudden, I was just really triggered to go inwards, and I stopped speaking. I literally stopped talking. It was selective mutism, is what it's known. And because I couldn't feel like I could express my true identity, and I'm getting all these questions, don't speak, don't do this, like that, I just took myself out of it completely. And so this work of identity has been really close to my heart. And also combined with that, all the times throughout my life that in a desire to fit in, a desire to belong, I would hide part of my identity, I'd adapt it, I'd change it. And every time we do that, we move away from our true purpose. All right? So when we're doing that, we're like disconnecting and hiding out, pretending, faking, all of these things related to our identity, then we're just not being true to ourselves or true to the reason why we're here. So, do you see me? Implies, do you see the real me? And your heart, your soul, somatically, your body, like everything in you wants that to be the case. And that is just human nature, our desire to connect and be seen. That second part, do you care that I am here? Do you care that I have a contribution to make? That I am here for a bigger reason, that I am here because my presence here really matters. It makes a difference. Do you care that I am here because I am different than everyone else? And I want you to care that I have a contribution to make to this world. I have this special gift, talent, ability, awareness. I have something that makes me unique. And so this question, do you care that I am here? It's a question we're asking ourselves and also of one another all the time. And if you look at this idea in the business world of like, what is your why? That's exactly it. Like, if you don't know your why you're doing what you're doing, then we lose our internal compass and we're just like unguided, untethered. And it's very difficult to live your happiest life when you don't have a North Star. You don't have like a GPS coordinate of like, this is why I'm here. Yeah? Do you care that I'm here? This is why I'm here. And that will make others care because you are so clear in the why you are here. So living your life purpose, I want to share with you, is really a call back to your authentic self. This is your mission in the world, and each person has this unique expression of that mission. It's what is the quickest, easiest way to give your life meaning, so that it matters, right? And it's your deepest reason for being. It's so intrinsic to your soul self. So now, purpose isn't something that you just find, right? It's actually something you synthesize from some of these particular ingredients, or I love the word alchemize, right? Like, your purpose is something you alchemize. It's the alchemy of your values, your experiences, your non-negotiables, what you know about the world, and the things that frustrate you, the things that inspire you, as well as the things that you know are special and unique about yourself. So if you create this potion from all these ingredients, that's going to give you an easeful indication of like, this is your purpose. This is why you're here, and that you matter immensely. I love what Robert Burns says: the purpose of life is a life of purpose. And I've also heard variations of that from a lot of different spiritualists, writers, and authors, including Robin Sharma. But this is it. Like, the purpose of life is a life with purpose. That is then where we have meaning and a sense of fulfillment. And if you've ever felt that malaise of you're sort of just like getting by and kind of visiting life, but you're not really in it, or you're doing all the things, and I remember this in my life. I did all the things that everybody wanted me to do. I kept the identity that everybody wanted me and was comfortable with me having. So whether it's great grades or student council or class officer or getting into the right university or doing well there, getting the perfect job, making money, getting titles and promotions that proved I was successful. I did all those things, but even doing all those things, something was missing. Something was always missing. Like, I'm doing it right, and yet I've never felt so lost. So I don't know if you can relate to that, but that's when we know we're doing it for everybody else. And we're not living our life according to what our true purpose is. So even though it looks really good to other people, and it's keeping other people comfortable and happy because we're doing what we're told and doing what they want, that's not going to ever give us a sense of fulfillment, like a deep meaningfulness to our lives. So we just keep doing, thinking that more is better. But until we stop, reset, and look within to seek our purpose and look at these ingredients that we synthesize together, then we'll just stay lost. But I know that if you put the time in this week, that you will come away knowing the why, knowing what your purpose is in this life. So a little bit more about identity. And if you see me looking over, I just have a lot of notes and I want to make sure that I'm including them to do the very best job possible for you. Okay? So identity is a tricky concept because it's subjective, right? And the psychologist that is credited for coining this term, identity crisis, is Erik Erikson. And he actually created this concept based in 8 stages of identity. And those 8 stages capture a specific virtue, all right? And these are the stages of psychological development. And I also want to just mention that before I go through those, that our identities encompass our memories of who we've been, our experiences, the relationships we have, the social conditioning, the feedback we're getting from others, as well as our values. All of those give us a sense of self. So here are the 8 stages: psychological development. Basic trust versus mistrust. This all relates to your identity, okay? Autonomy versus shame and doubt. Initiative versus guilt. Industry versus inferiority. Identity versus role confusion. Intimacy versus isolation. Generativity versus stagnation. And ego integrity versus despair. So in the psychosocial development, these are these 8 stages of our identity. So think about how rich a topic this is already, and how much or how little time you've put into truly investigating your identity, just overall, let alone drilling it down in these 8 different stages, yes, of psychosocial development. There's a lot to unpack there. And so the reason that it's important, first and foremost, is our identity gives us a sense of belonging. Again, Maya Angelou, like, do you see me and do you care that I am here, right? So finding that sense of belonging, finding our people, our community, like working within that. And so if we don't know our identity, we don't know our purpose, it is always going to be very, very difficult to feel like you found your people, your tribe, your community, that sense of belonging. Because on some level, if we're always sort of pretending, masking, limiting, curating who we are, what our identity is, then the people that we surround ourselves with will be attracted by these factors that are not actually fully us or not us at all, right? And so we could be surrounded by people, neighbors and colleagues, and look like, wow, look at all the friends we have, and feel the loneliest ever. Okay? You could be surrounded by people today and feel so deeply, desperately lonely because there is no sense of belonging in that group that you've created by putting out there a certain identity that is not true and not completely aligned with your true soulful purpose, right? And if we know how to define ourselves, it's easier to find the places and people that feel open to us, right? Like the joke goes, like, why would I ever want to be part of a group that doesn't want to have me as its member? And why do we work so hard to do all the things to try to be included in groups that don't honor, respect, or vibe with the truest identity and most authentic parts of ourselves? And so we wonder then, later this week, why we feel resistance in living our true purpose and why we care so much about what other people think if we live our purpose. So it starts today with this identity work, right? And so identity can also be a way to structure some parts of our lives and help us make the choices that we make more manageable. And identity is also important for the social connections that we make and our overall sense of well-being. So there are all these particulars that then come together as symptoms of an identity crisis. Number one, when you don't know what your purpose is, or you're questioning your place in the world, right? So there's a lot of reasons for identity crises. And these are some of the same symptoms, right? Low self-esteem. And it doesn't mean that you've had low self-esteem all of your life, because at transitional periods in our life, it's ripe with the opportunity for an identity crisis. And we could have great self-esteem, and then all of a sudden, in a new season of our life, or there's a big change. For me, some of those examples of a big change would be when I suffered TBI, a traumatic brain injury, from a cycling accident in Tuscany. And that trauma changed everything, and it changed my identity with myself. How could it? I mean, I was blind, I couldn't speak. I had to just lie down for 6 months and not do anything. No TV, no reading, no music. And then little by little, as my sight came back, it was all convoluted. I couldn't handwrite for years again. My brain was just not working in the same ways that it used to. So that trauma caused my sense of self-esteem to plummet, right? And I was in a partnership, in a almost decade-long relationship, where if I couldn't physically do all the things that I used to do, and I couldn't work and make as much money as I was making before, and I was struggling with some parts of just life as I was in my healing, what good am I? What value do I have? He couldn't handle it. He literally, if I was not perfect to the conditions he had placed upon me, then what good am I? So my self-esteem, from his influence and just me being frustrated, what would happen if tomorrow you can't write? What would happen if you don't know how to make coffee? What would happen if you can't remember where you put something? I mean, you can't ride a bike. You don't know how to drive a car anymore. I mean, these things are really impactful, but it doesn't have to be that level of a trauma. But there are times where our self-esteem, as a symptom of an identity crisis, will say to you, hey, something bigger is going on here, all right? And then the second symptom is questioning your value, your worth. Again, in this relationship container that I was in, if I couldn't make as much money, what value did I have? What was my worth to this person? It was less. It was absolutely less. Couldn't do this as much because I'm in recovery, and therefore then I don't have the same amount of worth. Or maybe you go through a situation with your job where you're let go. Maybe you change jobs thinking it's going to be better, but it's actually worse. And all of a sudden, when your identity is intertwined with what your work is, and something changes, by being let go out of a job, or even retiring, that can shake us up, and our sense of self-worth and our value can be deeply impacted. I'll give you another example when it comes to identity. For those of you that are in that stage or approaching that midlife point of empty nester, okay? If you're a mom and that is your number one job, and then the 1-year-old becomes the 20-year-old, the 22-year-old, your identity changes, and your sense of self-worth and value may change, because the way you were needed for a 1-year-old is not the same as for a 22-year-old, right? The next symptom is feeling lost or aimless. You wake up, it's Monday, you do the things, but even knowing that Friday's coming doesn't really feel like enough. It just feels like you're just floating out there and the wind can take you in any direction and you're just not anchored in some fundamental knowing, some fundamental, I know who I am, I know why I'm here, and all this chaos can be happening around me in the world that we don't control, right? But I don't feel lost. I know the next step, right? This isn't asking you like 20 years from now, but we always, when we're not feeling lost or aimless, we know the next step. And the actions that we're taking are to move us in the direction of that step. Living in Seattle, I love the fact that literally everybody carries a headlamp in their bag, which is usually a backpack. And so I did too. You never know. Spontaneous hiking could result. But I love the headlamps that you can see only in the next few steps. The headlamp isn't illuminating 1 mile down the way. It's illuminating just that next little bit. And that's when you're not aimless. But when you're feeling aimless and lost, it's like you can't find the headlamp or the battery has gone out on the headlamp. It's not lighting things up. It's not illuminating the path. Because when you know your purpose, you know your path. You know, go this way. This is your path. This is your road. Yeah. When you don't know your purpose, you're just going to keep trying other people's paths or whatever people say to you. You'll be like, okay, I'll go there. I'll go there. I'll go there. And you'll just end up feeling like you're going in circles, like that dizzying effect in your life. The next symptom of an identity crisis is not understanding your values, your non-negotiables. Like, what is important to you? What is your sense of integrity? What do you hold in highest regard that absolutely is a line in the sand? So do you value truth? That's one of my number one key values, no matter the circumstance. Like, that is vitally important, which is why I pour myself into this work to help you identify your true self, your true purpose, right? But notice if you've stepped away from understanding your values, or there's a pattern of you allowing people around you to influence you where you're not staying aligned with your values. The boundary is just softened and washed away, right? So, for me, an example of that is drinking alcohol. I mean, I've gone 1,000 days in a row with no alcohol, I've gone years, and then when I want to, I will. But if there are times in my past where I've not held a strong boundary and the person with me has influenced me, like, oh, let's get another drink. And then I'm like, no, I value my sleep. I value waking up feeling great. I value my health and how I treat my body. But I didn't say no to the extra drinks. And then I lost track of my value, right? So that's just one example. The next symptom of an identity crisis is feeling emotionally scattered or feeling like you can't regulate your emotions. Now, for a lot of us, our nervous systems are just racked, and we have had cumulative traumas that we've not healed from or addressed. We've been under enormous stress and pressure, feeling overwhelmed, anxiety on the rise, and that dysregulates the nervous system, okay? And if we're not doing things to learn how to systemically re-regulate and move from fight or flight response to the relaxation response, or move out of this dysregulated nervous system state to a regulated state of being, then we're very easily emotionally scattered. And if something happens, that emotion can be out of proportion to what has happened, right? Like, I ran out of milk, oh my gosh, then tears come, not like that is out of proportion to the circumstance. And then if somebody doesn't text us back right away, and we're emotionally invested, we're in this dysregulated state, we can, and then they do finally text back and we're like, oh, okay, all right, everything's okay. We may not feel okay for hours or days, right? So if you're finding yourself in a constantly dysregulated state, this is a symptom of an identity crisis, right? The next symptom is feelings of insecurity. And that's very, insidious, right? Like out of nowhere, it can come that we're just not feeling secure in ourselves. You're not feeling like you trust yourself, not feeling safe with yourself, not connected to your intuition. You're not believing yourself and what you're feeling or what you're thinking. Those are all manifestations. This a feeling of self-abandonment, of deep feelings of insecurity that are a symptom of an identity crisis. So we heal that, we find our purpose, and then you trust your intuition, you believe what you believe, and you have absolutely strength in your discernment. Confidence is gained back. And finally, increased feelings of anxiety. So that is a really prevalent symptom of an identity crisis, that anxiety just keeps going up and up and up. And if you think of a glass of water that's almost full, okay, that's us in our, in our day-to-day state. And then one more thing happens, just a little bit of water is poured into the cup and it overflows. That's now us going into this unhealthy place of anxiety, right? Just one more thing. And so that feeling of anxiety is just there at the surface all the time now, and you're just feeling it. Maybe it's interrupting your sleep. Perhaps it's interfering with relationships. You're feeling like you're having panic attacks, like you can't get your breath, your heart is racing, you can't get clear, you're stuck in states of distraction, unable to focus and bring yourself into that place of, okay, I'm going to pay attention to this one thing. It's like the camera that zooms out and you're taking in everything, that anxious state versus zooming in, a really focused state of being where you're not in that state of hyper anxiety. So these are symptoms of an anxiety, of an identity crisis. And what can occur as well from this, when we're disconnected from our purpose, is a sense of hopelessness, worthlessness, a loss of interest in the things that used to bring us joy. Like whether it was going to listen to live music or going to watch a movie or going for a walk or spending time with a particular person. But all of a sudden, these things that once were joyful just aren't enjoyable anymore. Fatigue, where no matter how much sleep you get, you're just feeling really tired. Tired not just physically, but tired in your mind, like a little fog is there. Tired in your soul, like your bones feel tired. That level of fatigue can occur when we're in this state of identity crisis, disconnected from our purpose. Irritability, just short fused, ill-tempered. There may be changes in appetite and changes in weight, all right, that can resolve. And that could be too little or weight gain, but look for this combination and difficulty concentrating, where we're just unable to feed our focus anymore and we're not able to complete things. So concentrating not just to get a task done, but knowing how to prioritize, which then looks like procrastination. But the procrastination, it's not that, it's just that we're not able to concentrate because we're going through this identity crisis where we just don't know why we're here, we don't know who we are, and we don't know what our purpose is. As well as then low energy levels, low motivation, and difficulty sleeping. These are all the ways that this can look like when we've lost our connection to our purpose. And let me also say that just because you had your purpose doesn't mean that you won't go through a traumatic event that causes you to lose your sense of purpose. That happens to all of us bar none. It's a long life, right? So things that can impact us, a divorce or separation. So I remember going through divorce where I felt like I always carried around a little card, like a business card, and that card said married. That was so my identity. I'm married. I'm a married woman. And I had like jewelry that said like, yeah, I'm married, right? And then after the divorce, I'm like, well, I'm not that, but single seems weird. I don't really like the title divorced, but I didn't know what to put on my card. And so that identity change of being a married person and then not being a married person, that can shake us up. And especially if our purpose was truly for that time related to that container, or now we don't know what it is, right? If we're not in that particular container. The loss of a loved one. When I lost my father when he was young, and I was young, right? It was only 25. I wasn't ready for this loss of identity and loss of purpose that came with the fact that now my mom is a single parent, and now I am fatherless. I am fatherless. I never thought that would be me until maybe I was like in my 80s, right? And I didn't know what to do with that. And I didn't know how to quickly change my purpose, because my purpose was part of this other identity. And losing my father was truly one of the most traumatic and most enlightening, most transformative experiences of my life. It is what led me to you today. The lesson that I received was, don't wait. This is not a rehearsal. That's it. And so I changed my life as a result. And maybe I would have gotten to this life purpose eventually, to serve others as a resiliency teacher and mentor and spiritual guide, or maybe not. But I got to that point faster because of the trauma of losing my father. Don't wait. Wake up, right? And make the most of this experience. I want you to get on with knowing your life purpose. I don't want you to spend 20 years just lost, wandering, untethered. I want you to have clarity, because when you know your life purpose, you wake up with enthusiasm. You love your life, you love yourself, you love your day, and you feel the gratitude of blessings every single day all around you. So it was a pivotal experience that brought me here now, teaching thousands all over the world how to find their purpose. An accident is a situation where it can shake us up and challenge us to change or realign with a new purpose. Moving, right? Like who you are in a particular town or city or circumstance, and now you move and no one knows you. And that can really alter and influence how you see yourself and what your identity is. So when I moved from Chicago to Seattle, not knowing but one person and no family, moved to the other side of the country, who am I? Why am I here? Do you see me? And do you think it's important that I'm here? These were crucial questions that I faced on the daily there that I hadn't faced for years, because living in Chicago, owning a yoga studio, well, one, having an amazing corporate career, then opening a yoga studio and having 9,000 clients and transforming people's lives. Like, it was so clear that was my dharma, right? To create this community center for people to gather and heal and transform. And then leaving my studio and going to the other side of the country where I didn't have that. Like, well, who am I now? What am I supposed to be doing without this? Getting a new job can be shake us up. Physical health issues. So whenever there's a diagnosis or there's a limitation or there's a struggle in our health, like, that can change who we think we are and can impact our life purpose. So if you're like, oh, I'm this healthy, vital person, I can do anything, physically, I'm so strong and active, and then you can't do any of it. I mean, when I was in a hit and run, like in my early 20s, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't put my underwear on by myself. I couldn't brush my hair. It was a long path to recovery. That was a pivotal moment to, again, wake me up to my purpose and to not hold back, because I realized I don't know how long I have here, right? And that taught me everything has an expiration date, including me, including my abilities. So I didn't have to wait until I was 85 to lose the ability to walk or have some physical challenge. I had that in my early 20s. I'm 24 years old. I'm like, wow, I can't do any of these things. So something that impacts your physical health, mental health, retirement, becoming a parent, all of these things can absolutely impact your purpose, and they are a triggering event, an enlightening event, to help you identify more clearly who you are becoming, right? So when it comes to purpose, one of the 3 myths, and I write about these in your workbook, is that your purpose doesn't change throughout your life. It absolutely changes during the course of your life. So something may or may not happen, but for certain, it's not going to be the same purpose throughout the whole arch of your life. So just know that. And if that's giving you great comfort right now, like, oh, okay, that's a myth that I can just bust, that I don't have to stay contained to this purpose. I've outgrown it, just like you outgrow your identities. In some practices, we call these ego deaths, or Joseph Campbell talks about how I have to let go of the life that I thought I'd lead to have the life that I am becoming, right? And that something has to be let go of. Like, what in my life needs to die for something to be born? What part of my egoic identity needs to be released so that I can now focus on the becoming and the birthing of this newest aspect of my identity? So an example of circumstances that impact our purpose. When there was someone that he was imprisoned for a lot of years, and I don't want to go into all the detail of where and which country and why, but during this time of imprisonment, wrongly imprisoned, he became the leader of this whole group of people within the compound, within the prison. And he said, I never sought that out. I never sought to be a leader of all these people. And his leadership was to give these people hope, to teach them resiliency. But before that, he was a baker. And that was done. And now this new identity and purpose revealed itself. And those were the circumstances of what was happening around him and inside him. And he heeded the call and said yes to this new purpose. So I hope that that gives you a little bit of more insight, but I also want you to think about what it is you're seeking. And as you're looking to think about what you're seeking in your life, some would say that it begins with self-awareness. I would say it begins with seeking, the S of the soul method. If you're not seeking to know more about yourself, if you're not seeking to understand your why, if you're not seeking to find yourself, then self-awareness comes after that, right? So this is where it starts, is the seeking to know what your identity is. Who are you? Who are you? And that excavation is a lifelong process as it evolves and changes and adapts, right? And so know that going through different moments of egoic deaths or identity crisis, that these are all normal things. And so let's journal a little bit, shall we? And always feel free to write down anything that, as you're listening to this, you want to go back and write about, okay? Take a big breath in. Open mouth, exhale. So describe yourself using the first 10 words that come to mind. Describe yourself using the first 10 words that come to mind. No editing, just keep your pen going. Don't edit as you write. The 10 words that come to mind. Just writing using this golden plume method. Keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. And now, write down 10 words that you'd like to use to describe yourself. Write down 10 words that you'd like to purposely use to describe yourself. Don't worry if these are some of the same words or they're completely different. And an exercise that I love to help you with this, if you're having a stuck point, is how do you want to be remembered? So what 10 words do you want to use to describe yourself on purpose? And now, let's go to this next question. And you can do this in 3 columns, or just do it all at once. What 3 things would you most like your friends to know about your identity? What 3 things would you most like your friends to know about your identity? What 3 things do you most want your friends to know about your identity? What 3 things do you most want your colleagues, the people you work with, to know about your identity? What 3 things do you want your work colleagues to most know about your identity? What 3 things do you most want the people you work with to know about your identity? And finally, what 3 things do you want your romantic partner to know about your identity? What 3 things do you want your romantic partner to know about your identity? Try not to overthink it. Whatever is coming up, just write it down. What 3 things do you most want your romantic partner to know about your identity? And then take a look at those lists. See the commonalities. Is there a word that's in common between how you want your friends to know you, how you want your romantic partner to know you, how you want your work colleagues to know you? Are they completely different? Are 2 of the 3 closer and more aligned? But connect the dots for yourself. See what learning is there. Next question. First, take a big breath in. Open mouth, exhale. What values do you consider the most important? Write a list of your values. No particular order. Integrity, truth, altruism, justice, loyalty. What values are the most important to you? Make a list. No minimum, no maximum. And know you can always come back and add to this. And right now, just write what values are most important in your life in this moment. And then we're going to write I am statements. So write 5 I am. Just do that. I am, and then blank, leave a space. Second, I am, leave a space. I am, and just 5 lines of I am statements. Just get that prepped, okay? And then take a big breath in, deep breath out, and put the pen down, put the pencil down, hands over your heart. Feel the center of your soul self, the I am presence. This that is you. This that is your core identity. And just close your eyes for a moment and feel the I am. Feel the I am, like bubbling up, like little Pellegrino bubbles. And just ask yourself, how do you identify what is coming up for you? I am, let it just bubble up. I am, I am, I am, I am. Write those down now. And if it's more than 5, write those down. If it's fewer, but you have the spaces, just put in, fill in the blank. I am. Often these are one word or very short responses as identifiers. I am confident is an example. And then look at these and do they align with your true identity? Do they reveal more to you about yourself, who you really think you are, or are they slightly aspirational? Maybe some of both. Like, this is who I am. Even if you're not feeling confident, or you're feeling like 50% confident, but not 51% confident, but this is who you are. This is what is coming up from your soul, right? That is what is inside. People on the outside can't tell us who we are. We have to do that discovery process, this inquiry process ourselves. Otherwise, our purpose will never fit us. So just take a look to see how close these identifiers are for you. And finally, last question. Take a big breath. Open mouth, exhale. Make a sound. Do it again. Inhale through your nose. Exhale out your mouth. Write down those parts of your identity that you want to release. They no longer fit. You've outgrown them. Which misaligned identities do you feel need to be released? I love going through my closet a lot. And then every month I participate in this clothing swap where I just bring the things that honestly, they don't fit me in the style. They don't fit me in the size. They don't fit who I think I am right now, right? There's something about these things that don't fit. Even if they do fit perfectly in size and they're perfect condition. I mean, heck, I have things that have tags on them, but they don't fit me. They do not fit who I am right now. And I bring them over to the clothing swap. And then I find things that I'm like, look at this beautiful dress. That fits me. But in order to make space in my closet, because there's only so much space, I have to let go of the things that are misaligned. We have to update and edit and refine our identities. Who you are now is not yet who you will be, because you are in a state of becoming, and who you have been doesn't have to be who you are now. So we have no problem thinking of it that way when we're like, I don't fit into the clothes that I wore in 8th grade. Of course, things that fit when you're, 7 or 10 don't fit you at 37 or 50 or 20. Like, we move forward. And so everything requires updating, a resetting, a realignment. And so that's this work in this question, writing down all the parts of you that do not fit. I'll give you an example. Are you the eldest child in the family? And all the stories and conditioning that goes with the oldest child. You're the responsible one. You have to take care of everything. You have to work harder. You have to go home earlier to help your parents prepare for Thanksgiving or the holidays. If something goes wrong, you have to take care of it. You're the executor on their estates. You're like always just the one that is responsible. And you have outgrown that level of feeling pressured to be responsible, when a lot of times you want to just be carefree. I'm not saying irresponsible. I'm saying you want to be carefree. You want to be like maybe a little frivolous. You want to be like silly, and you don't want to have to be the number one first call all the time because you're in birth order the eldest child. And so then don't, right? Like, don't buy into those identities of what people are saying to you or have expected, or even what you have done for so long. You can update that, right? And think of even things like, for all my sisters, women of color, like BIPOC, like myself, when people are like, oh, you're so strong, you're so strong, you're so strong. What if we don't want to be associated with that word anymore? We're like, I am tired of being so strong, because people think I'm so strong, then they're not compassionate towards me. People think I'm so strong that I don't need help. People think I'm so strong, I don't need support. And my purpose has gotten so convoluted in this identifier of I am strong, but it doesn't fit me anymore. I am vulnerable. I am open-hearted. I am empathetic. And my purpose is leading me to want to serve people that want to be seen and want to have support empathetically, compassionately. So this is how it can play through. So these are just a handful of journaling questions. They're in your workbook, and you can just print off the pages in the workbook that have the journaling questions and write them there. You can write in your own journal, but I highly encourage you to journal, right? I highly encourage you to journal. Well, I hope that this has been really profoundly educational and motivational and inspiring. Today we talked about what is purpose, why it matters, what an identity crisis is, the 8 stages of psychosocial development when it comes to identity, and symptoms of identity crisis, and what events can influence our identity and the change in our life purpose tied to our identity. And then we journaled as seekers. The seeking and the landscape that we were moving through is the internal landscape. Yeah, this is a practice of turning inwards, because the answers to who you are, why you are here, your desire to be seen, are in your soul. They're right inside. So thank you for being here with me. And I can't wait to have an amazing, amazing week with you. And don't hesitate to reach out to me, to comment, to DM me, to let me know how this whole thing is being experienced by you and what questions you have. I would love to be part of this transformation on the biggest level to help you discover your purpose. From my heart to your heart to the heart of the universe, may you love yourself, love your day, and love your life.